Man, I really when I think about it, this is like the culminate. I feel like everything I've done professionally, like for the past 20 years working in music, was preparing me for this. You know, it was like the logical conclusion. Um, I mean, I started working in music in the early 90s. I was living in Boston, and I worked in the warehouse at Rounder slash DNA, which was the distribution uh, section of Rounder Records, which I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. They're like an American roots label. They've been around for a while. They're an indie, and they specialize in a lot of bluegrass and blues and just all that kind of classic stuff. They're real like kind of archivist, that stuff. But then they also had at the time a distro that also focused on that type of stuff. So I mean, pretty much from there, it was from that to working in college radio, working at venues, and then in mid '90s, I moved to San Francisco and I started a record label, TKO Records, and so I continue to run that, but that's been going for 20 years now. But it's funny how we ended up here. My wife and my daughters came to me around Christmas time one year and said, "Dad, we don't like it here in Orange County anymore. We want to move." And because I had sort of been driving the car as far as like, okay, we're relocating here, and we were calling all the shots. I said, okay, you know what? This one's on you guys. I mean, I'll tell you what I think, but you guys get to pick where we go next. And we had a short list, and Portland was on the list, and we ended up getting to come up here and house sit for a friend for a couple weeks. So we were like embedded. We weren't just here as tourists. We're in a neighborhood, and having fairly, getting to see what it was like living here in Southeast. And yeah, Portland won out of the other candidates. So then it became a question of like, all right, well, what is Dad gonna do when he gets up here? Because I had a record store in Orange County, and Portland's good for record stores. They don't, I called a few friends of mine that worked at or owned record stores up here, and it was kind of a 50-50 split of, yeah, just come on up, man. Another store will be rad. It'll be rad. People will like what you do. And then the other people were like, well, the other opinion was, well, yeah, you could do that, but you're either going to not succeed because there's all these other record stores, or you'll succeed at the cost of putting another store or two out of business. And, I kind of, at this point, I view record enthusiasts, record stores, record labels, musicians, that's my community. And so I didn't feel good about, hey, I just moved here to town, and guess what? You're gonna go out of business, or I'm here to compete with you. That just didn't jive. So then it became a question like, all right, well, what is there that I could do that's related to my work experience, what I already do, that would be a service and provide something that's not already here. And so during this time, when we were planning to move up here, I was having these conversations with my friend Adam at Telegraph Mastering. And at one point I said to him, man, have you ever thought about opening a plant up here? And he's like, yeah, all the time. But I don't have the money. And I said, okay, well, how much money are you talking about? And he threw out a very naively low number. And with my bravado, I acted like I had it in my back pocket. Oh, yeah, I could get that, no problem. And then from there, it pretty much it was like about a year of just us kind of egging each other on in this dare to, to open a record pressing plant. And so it went from there to, I had some downtime because I just had some, I know I'm telling you my whole fucking life story here. I just had some downtime because I just had surgery on both my hands for carpal tunnel. So I was like, okay, I'm sitting around recovering. I got some time. So I just started researching everything I could find about just the current state of pressing in the US, in North America. And that went from, getting a bead on the last known equipment that had sold. And it turned out that had gone to a friend of a friend. So I contacted that guy and just sort of got the details like, all right, well, where did you find this thing? How'd you find it? And then not even so much who bought it, but how did you come to acquire this piece of equipment? Because you can't, they don't, at the time they were not making this stuff. It was all very scarce. And, from there I actually got in touch with this broker, equipment broker, and just this whole, very clandestine, well-guarded, small community of people who traffic in this kind of gear. And, it was crazy, man. We ended up, we were looking and in contact with people in Jamaica, Africa, Europe, all over the world. But I was, just sort of reaching out to just trying to find this gear. And, it was pretty cutthroat. Because the whole time that, right when we started looking was right when all the press started on the vinyl comeback. So, it went from like, when I first started my research, the general understanding was, you could probably get a derelict, jacked up press for like $5,000 and a completely tricked out running one for like 25 grand. And then every time there was another article or like Jack White was, popping up and stuff, nothing against Jack White, but just, because he was the champion of the time and remains to be too. But it was like every time they were running one of those articles, the people we were in touch with, the price kept like, now it's 50 grand. Now, it kept going up and up and up. And I don't think we had at the time a lot of competition from other people looking to get established themselves like we were, but the other established plants, they had long followed the practice of any time equipment show up, no matter what shape it was in, snatch it up immediately so they could maintain their piece of the market, and but I guess how we kind of had an advantage in this new scenario with the price, they were used to getting this stuff for pennies. So when the prices started going up, our would-be competitors a lot of times were just going, no, you're crazy. We're not going to pay that. Whereas, Adam and I's perspective was, okay, we're the guys who want record presses. You're the guys who have record presses. This is a limited commodity. It costs what you say it costs, So if you tell me, I ask you how many presses do you have, and you say 9, and you tell me they're, 30 grand a piece. Well, I say, okay, well, would you be willing to sell me X amount? I can't afford all of them, but would you sell me some of them, And that we were like polite and didn't really haggle with them. We didn't go, well, that's crazy. I bought these ones for, $5 grand a piece. You're out of your mind. Like we totally sidestepped that part of the conversation because, we weren't in that position, So that's really kind of what allowed us to, to win out and get the equipment that we did. But it was pretty cutthroat, especially when we started other. I know I said earlier there weren't that many other people trying to get established, but sort of towards the end there, Europeans with money started showing up on our radar. So there was one batch of equipment that was down in Jamaica, and that was going for comparatively a bargain. But of course we needed to get down to Jamaica to inspect it. And so I had, was in touch, and we had that conversation and process. And then the broker that we were working with, he called me and said, man, these guys from Europe just offered me, I think it was like 20 grand just to jump ahead of you in line. And, I said to him, look, man, I'm not going to give you 20 grand right now. So go ahead and take the money. You were honest and you came and told me. If you had done this behind my back, I'd never talk to you again. But, you did the right thing and you explained to me. He said, go ahead and do that, because I don't know we're having problems with, working out the logistics of shipping product from Jamaica. You can ship stuff to Jamaica all day long, but trying to get someone to ship stuff from Jamaica is actually a much more difficult process if you're not already a shipping magnate, which I'm not, So, I let that go. And then, I ended up talking to a woman who owns one of the really well-established pressing plants down in California, and I had heard she had some extra equipment. So I kind of showed my cards. I'd been really kind of not really talking to other people about what I was planning on doing, because I started getting worried about if I said, "Hey, I divulged my plans," that they would, something would either it wouldn't work out, or it was kind of one of those things where, like, I didn't want to tell people about it. I wanted to show them when we were done and we were ready. So I was keeping my plans largely to myself. But I was talking to this woman and I said, "Hey, these are my plans. I'd really like to start a small plant in the Northwest. I'm thinking, 6 presses. I understand you have surplus equipment that you're not using. Would you consider selling to me?" And she was mulling it over, and she said, "Well, have you found any other equipment?" I said, "Well, yeah, there was this." I told her the story of the Jamaican lot, and so she's going, "Huh, interesting. Okay, well, yeah, I'll talk to you next week." And we get off the phone. I guess apparently what she did was she figured out, when I just sort of described the equipment down in Jamaica, she figured out that was equipment she had sold to somebody in Jamaica in the 90s. And so she immediately called down there, and I think she bought it back. And so when those guys from Europe got on the plane and flew to Jamaica, and when they landed in Jamaica, their equipment had sold. So that was a very telling experience, to just how, like, okay, this is getting kind of cutthroat. Like, we have to be very, very secretive and really, really protect our leads and protect what we're doing, because otherwise, it's just going to be people with more money coming up and from out from under us and just buying this stuff. We're never going to get anywhere. So anyway, I guess I'm kind of gotten off on a tangent, but yeah, it was a very long and twisted journey that brought us to this point. But we ended up coming to an agreement.